guys. This is Nkululeko Mahlangu, a business development officer at Gert Sibande TVET College, Center for Entrepreneurship. This is the second session that we're going to have today. Remember last time we covered the business model canvas, which we were looking mainly on the value proposition of the company, key activities, the revenue streams, the channels, how do you market your business. And today we're going to look more on what we call the lean start approach. How do you start a business? What are the most critical things that you need to consider if you want to start a business? Number one, there are certain basics. That's what we call the lean start basics. Problem number one, let me just give you a brief of background on why do startups fail. You've seen a lot of people starting businesses, but you've also seen a lot of businesses fail. And in fact, study says most of startups do not see life beyond 5 years. Now, there's a few reasons for that. And today, I just want to discuss a few things with you guys. Number one, the first problem is the allure of a good plan, a solid strategy, and thorough market research. That is the first problem. What it means is that people, they overthink things. People, they do market research. People, they want to have a solid business plan. They do not want to open a room for failure. Fact of the reality is you can't run a business with just a business plan. Your business is bound to fail at a given time. But when you fail, you must also understand that for you, that is a learning point. Now, the second thing I want to discuss, startups do not yet know how their customer is or what their product should be. If you are a startup, you do not know what type of customers that you want. Reality is, yes, you are a startup. You want to sell a particular brand product. You want to sell a particular service, but you do not know. You do not understand the type of markets that you'll be selling to. So, if you do not know those things, chances are your company will fail or your business will fail. Number three, after traditional management fails to solve the problem, some entrepreneurs and investors have thrown up their hands and adopted they just do it school of startups, meaning that people like, look, I failed, then I'm fine. They leave it just like that. But there are certain principles that you need to understand when you run a business. But there are 5 basic principles of any startup, in particular, the lean startup model. They believe entrepreneurs are everywhere. Entrepreneurship is management. Validated learning, not just making stuff. Build, measure, and learn. Those are the 3 critical things. And number 5, innovation, accounting, improve entrepreneurial outcomes. So I'm going to go back to each and every principle so that for you to be able to understand what do I mean. Number 1, when I say entrepreneurs are everywhere, it means opportunities exist everywhere. You have an opportunity to sell eggs, you have an opportunity to sell ice, you have an opportunity to sell. You are within entrepreneurship. You are then able to solve problems. Number 2, entrepreneurship is management. If you are able to manage your resources, if you are able to manage your customers, if you are able to manage your clientele, then you are then what we call an entrepreneur. You must have what we call validate learning. Validate learning simply means if somebody criticizes your product, it gives you an opportunity to learn what mistake you did and how are you going to correct that. That is what we call validate learning. And innovation accounting, improve entrepreneurial outcomes, meaning that you need to be innovative. You need to find new and simple ways of doing things. Number 6, just checking if you are awake. I said there were 5 points. Traditionally, the product manager says, I want this. In response, the engineer says, I'm going to build this. You know, those are 2 types of mindsets. the one who says, I want this, and the one who says, I'm going to build this. As I said that today, I want us to focus mainly on what we call the lean startup model. Now, on the lean startup model, we look at number one, we look at what we call customer segments. Who are your customers? What do your customers want? So before you even start a business, you need to understand who is and who are your customers. Then from there is what we call them your early adopters. The first group of people who will be buying your product is what we call the early adopters. So now it goes back to the adoption. There's something called the adoption cycle. And under the adoption cycle, you must understand that there are 5 types of stages that any customers or any business goes under. Now, as much as that will be a topic for another day, but today I will just highlight a few. Number one, we've got a first group of customers that what we call them your innovators. Your innovators, it is this type of people who normally goes out there. They are the first to buy new products. They are the first to test something new on the market. If there's a new phone coming out, they're the first one to have it. Then we've got the second group that we call early adopters. Then early adopters, when we speak of early adopters, we speak of people that just, when something just came out, the innovators adopt, then they're the second group that adopts the product, meaning after the trendsetters have seen and they've used that product, they're the second group to buy that particular product. And then we've got a third group, of which we call an early majority. Early majority, it is when most of people now, they're starting to know the product, they're starting to buy the product, then those group of people who use that particular product are called early majority. Then we've got the fourth group, we call the fourth group late majority. Then it's when something is in now, everyone has it. That group is called the late majority. Then we've got the last group. This last group, we call them laggards. It's those type of people who buy things that when it's now out of fashion, when it's at the cheapest level, that's when they buy. Those type of group are what we call laggards. So in you starting your business, you need to understand these 5 type of customers that you're going to service. Because with the adoption cycle, goes what we call a production life cycle. And the production life cycle goes from development, and it's development, then it's introduction. When it reaches introduction stage, that's when the innovators, they use the product. We've got something called the production life cycle. And under the production life cycle, it's where you have there's a stage called introduction phase. And it's when now the innovators, they come and buy or test your product. That's where you see if your product will do well. Then we move from introduction phase, we go to growth phase. And under growth phase, it's where your adopter cycle comes in and also say, now people are starting to buy this particular product because we are at a stage where we call a growth phase. We move from a growth phase, we have what we call a maturity phase. And under maturity phase, that's where sales start to pick up in the company, and that's where your early majority and late majority comes in, and that's where the company mostly makes their profits, is when a product is at a maturity stage. Then lastly, we've got what we call a decline stage. Decline stage is where we see that the product is now going off market. People are no longer interested on the product. Then the laggards, that's where they come in and they buy the product. In them buying that particular product, what then happens is the company or you as a company, you have an option to choose whether you take it off the shelf or you reintroduce it. As I said, this is just a whole topic for another day, but I just wanted you to understand the customer segments and how do they work. And then from there, we move on unfair advantage. Remember, on Good Business Model Canvas, I spoke about unique selling point. Here, it's what we call an unfair advantage. What makes your business different from any other? What puts you out there? If I use your product, what is the product feature that your product has that any other product does not have? Then I've got what we look also at the channels. How are you communicating with your customers? What are you saying to the customers? Which channels do you use for you to communicate whatever message that you are communicating? Is it going to be Facebook? Is it going to be WhatsApp? Is it going to be television, newspapers? You look at all of those things. Now, then we move to what we call value proposition. What value are you bringing when you are selling that particular product? Remember, if you are a startup, you can't just wake up in the morning and say, look, today I'm going to sell quarters. But already there are people who are selling quarters. What is it that you're going to do unique? What value is your quarter going to bring? Maybe you can say, okay, you've realized that quarters are not healthy because they pack a lot of fat, and you come with a different type of quarter for a more healthier market segment. Then you move on, what is the problem that you're solving? Remember, I said that every business exists for one reason, and one reason only, is to solve problem. There is no business that exists that does not solve problems. So, meaning if you are hungry and you decide to go and buy something to eat, you are solving a problem of hunger. If you are cold, you go and buy a jersey, you are solving a problem of cold. So, meaning that the first thing that you should ask yourself, what problem is my company solving? Or what problem am I solving as an entrepreneur? Number two, then we go to the solution. What is the solution? What are you bringing on the table to solve that particular problem that you are currently facing? Then, as I said, the minute you decide to go to Spare, or you decide to go to any restaurants, then you are addressing that issue of hunger. That problem that you had, you are starting to address it because you say, okay, my solution is for me to go to Spare. Once you go to Spare, you are then able to order whatever food that you want to order. Then that is solving a problem. Then we move to what we call cost structure. How much is it costing you to create the solution for the problem? How much is it costing you to create that bottle of water? How much is it creating you to purify that particular water? If for me to speak about something that is more practical, if it costs you 7 rand or 8 rand to produce that water, then the problem is thirst. People they become thirsty. They need water as part of the solution. And what is different about this particular water that you are solving? So then after that, you must look at your revenue streams. What is it that you will be selling? And how is money going to be coming in? Are you going to focus only on the bottle of water? Or are you going to add juice? Or are you going to add 5 liters of water? Are you going to add 2 liters of water? Those are your revenue streams. What else would you be selling alongside with those water? When we speak about value proposition, I want to go back to value proposition. That is where the heart of the business is. Your heart of your business is in your value proposition. On what is it that you are selling as? It's also we speak about. You look at the issue of customers. You cannot speak about customers and you don't speak about your value, because what you are selling is linked purely with your customer segments. Remember, the last time when we spoke, I was discussing the business model canvas. Now, this canvas, the lean canvas, is how we link the two. We link the business model canvas with the lean startup approach to be able for you to understand when and how to start that particular business. The most important thing here is for you to be able to pivot. And pivoting simply means going back to the drawing board and develop the products again. Look, on the lean startup approach, we focus more on the 80-20 rule. We focus more on 80% of the 20% of the product that 80% of the people will use, rather than 80% on the product that 20% of the people will use. Meaning that when you want to start a business, look at, for example, there are certain phones. There's a phone, a particular brand that I cannot mention on TV now, that purely focuses on the camera. They've mastered the camera. Once they've mastered the camera, 80% of its users, they only buy that particular phone for the camera. It is because that is where the value is. That is where the unique selling point are. They know well, you can beat them with any other features, but when it comes to the camera, they make sure that they are the best. They apply the 80-20 rule. They focus purely on 20% of the product that the 80% will use. So that is what you should be looking at. How do you ensure that whatever service or product that you bring on the table attracts 80% of your clientele? That 80% is what we use for you to make the product better. Look, remember we also spoke about co-creation. Co-creation means that when you have a product, you receive feedback, you make the product better based on the responses of your customers. Your customers are the ones who are in a position to help you to create a perfect product. Because a happy customer, it means it's a sales for you. You must then understand that even if you can have this nice product that we're talking about, without a sale, you are not in business. For us, we only start to recognize that you are in business the minute the next person spends money on getting your service or your product. Then we say you are in business. In simple terms, when we speak about you being in business, you should be able to sell stuff. Now, there is also another element that I want to cover when it comes to these models. So for you to be able to understand the difference between the two, there is an element of the business model canvas and the lean startup. The target audience for business model canvas, it's purely for new and existing business. Whilst the lean startup approach is purely for people who want to start businesses. And the business model canvas focuses mainly on customers, innovators, entrepreneurs, consultants, and advisors, while the lean start approach focuses purely on entrepreneurs. The customers, the emphasis is on customer segments, channels, and relationship, while on the lean we no unknown or tested products, so there are no segments. What that simply means is that when you start using the lean canvas to start your business, the only way you'll be able to test your product is if you take it to the market, and the markets are the ones who will come back and tell you you are doing the right thing or you're not doing the right thing. On the business model canvas, you focus mainly on your infrastructure, list of funding, and revenue streams. Here, we start with the problem. What problem are we solving? Any business must be able to solve problems. Now, we propose solutions, we look at the channels, we look at the costs, and we look at the revenue. Then the other one is the issue of competition. On the business model canvas, there is something called, we look at value proposition in quantitative way and qualitative terms to stay smart in the market. So you must always stay smart in the market. Remember, it's for existing businesses. Whilst on the lean start, we assess the business has an unfair advantage and how to capitalize on it. So we look at how can we make money out of our unique selling point. So we should be in a position to understand clearly when you say you are choosing the lean startup or the business model. They are both good. So small businesses if you want to start, we highly recommend for you to take the lean startup approach. And if you are already selling your quota somewhere, we are saying, okay, look at your business model canvas. We are about solving problems purely and in the most simplest form. That is what we use when we help we help people to start their businesses. When you start, you need a proper plan, and that plan will be able to help you to start with you understanding the challenges that surrounds you. You can't just start a business without understanding the environment that you find yourself in. The other important thing I want us to discuss is the markets and the opportunity size. Remember, when you start a business, you are starting a business to make money. And when you start a business, you look on the market size. How big is the market? The number of people that will be selling or buying your product. You look at the market size and you say, look, the total market is 100% where I am, and out of that 100%, I want 10% of that. You should be looking at that. You should also look at what we call a TAM. A TAM, T-A-M, it's called the total available market. You look at that when you want to start a business, you look at the TAM, at the TAM, the acronym we use. It simply means the total available market size. You should be in a position to know the size of the market that you want to service. Then we've got something called SAM. S-A-M, it's a serviceable available market. This market is people who are currently using other products to solve the problem that you want to solve. There's already a solution in the market. Remember, I told you that there is no business that you're going to start that is just completely new. Every business solves a problem, and currently there are people who are solving that particular product as we speak. Then from there, we've got something. Remember, I said we spoke about TAM, the available market size. Then I spoke about SAM, the serviceable available market. Lastly, I speak about SOM. It is a serviceable, obtainable market. So what it means, it simply means that this market, it's the market that you need to focus purely on, because that's where you're going to be making your money. And that's the people who will be buying your product. Those are the people who will be using your service. Then you know that, okay, my 6% comes purely from this type of people. Because remember, I told you that not everyone can be your market. You need to decide on the type of market you want to service. Then you must say, okay, maybe in the next 5 to 6 years, I want to grow my market to 10%. You need also that goes with also your channels. How do you market? When you market, remember, we normally say we don't go online, but we live online. That's where the most clientele you'd find. You'd find every person, on average, goes about 10 to 15 times on their social media a day. So meaning that's where you need to market your business. Your LinkedIn, all these other platforms that exist for your particular target market, you need to familiarize yourself with. You need to know, how do you communicate with your customers? Then that is why some people, they choose television. Some people, they choose Facebook. Some people, they choose radio. It depends on the target audience. So when you start a business, those are the kind of things that you are looking at. Remember, you are not in business until you make sales. So if you come up with a problem, if you identify a problem, find a solution that will make sure that you find yourself in business. This will be the end of our lesson today. Remember, I spoke about the lean start, slightly different than the business model canvas. They do complement each other. And remember, on the lean start, we said the first thing we look at customer segments. We also look at your channels, we look at your unfair advantage, your revenue streams, we look at your unique proposition, we look at your solution that you bring, your key metrics, your cost structure, and we look at the problem. As I said earlier, there is no business that can exist without solving problem. The only reason all business exists is because they are solving problems. So I hope next time when we meet, you will be available so that we'll be able to discuss topics like now you've started. Then we need to focus on how do we finance the business, because every business needs finance. You need in the form of funding and in form of financial management. How do you manage the particular funds that you find within your position? Till then, bye.